We recognise the strength, resilience and capacity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people.
Australia comprises many Aboriginal and Torres Strait nations. We would like to acknowledge all of the traditional custodians of the land within Australia.
We pay respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait elders past and present. And then there's another part of me going, did you ask me? Did you tell me about it? Was I included?
What a bunch of scumbags.
You scumbags.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. You're here with Janine.
And Kevin.
And today we're going to talk about triggers.
Triggers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about.
Now we had a long discussion talking about what we were going to talk about
Yeah, we did.
before we talked about it.
And
Yeah.
then we came up with triggers.
Actually, we came up with loads of things. You've got a whole list.
I've got a huge list.
I've got a very small list.
But it's all the
I
discussion
got-
around it I love.
Yeah, I got some in my head though. Yeah.
And how's that going for you?
Yeah, I'd rather get them out of my head and everybody else can listen to them.
Why don't you write a list, Kevin?
They'll still be in my head, wouldn't
Why?
they?
Then it's on the paper. Oh, unless you put it in your phone. That is a bugbear of mine. That's a trigger of mine.
Putting stuff in your phone.
Well, everybody bloody picking up your phone with everything that you have to do in life now. I went to an
Are you going to have a complaint?
I am.
Okay.
So I went to a, let me say, without naming the bakery. You're going to spit your coffee, aren't you?
Yeah.
I saw that then.
Yeah.
So I went to a bakery.
Aha bakery.
A bakery that I'm not going to name. One that most people are familiar with
Oh, I
anyway.
know which one it
so
is.
as I was getting some bread, and I just thought, oh yeah, I'll get some wholemeal bread, fantastic, and some sourdough. And the retail person came up to me and said, so have you got our app? And I went, no. And she went, okay, and carried on.
Yeah.
But I was like, really? I need an app to go and get some bread? Or I should have an app to get some bread? Or find out what bread's available from an app? So I have to pick up my phone again. If I want to contact somebody, or if I find out if somebody's around, or if I want some more information about something, I pick up my phone. Everything's about the bloody phone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I disagree.
Okay, go on.
So, like, the stuff about walking around and you go, yeah, look, they're on their phones and they're, oh, look at that couple sitting in the restaurant and both looking at their phones. And, oh, look at everybody sitting on the tram, they're all on the phones. But
Yeah.
that's like, yeah, what's going on? Somebody else put it really well. I can't remember. Anyway, doesn't matter.
So you like that or you don't like
I
that?
don't like that.
No.
But exactly what you said. I love using my phone
Yeah.
for making notes. And I make notes of lists, and I make to-do lists. But I also use it for writing.
Yeah.
And more recently, I've been using it so that I can, the notes function on my phone allows me to talk into it.
Yeah.
And it does a pretty good job of translating.
Yeah.
So
Look,
that's good.
it's a love-hate relationship that I have with the
Yeah,
phone,
me
as
too.
many of us may have. And I appreciate that. I guess one of the things that I really don't like, and I get quite triggered, is if I go to say hello to someone and then someone goes, oh, I'll just look that up, or I'll just look at the app, or I chatted to somebody in an exercise class recently, and they know that I work in the areas of welfare and counselling, and they said, oh, Janine, I thought about you. Have you seen this app? This would be really good for the people that you work with. And I'm just thinking, Yeah, they're struggling with communication. They're struggling with being close to people, and what they need is a nap.
Yeah.
That said, I imagine the app, and there are those that are really quite wonderful and really helpful with people, particularly when people are isolated, all those things. So people are not saying that these are bad things. It's just my trigger.
Yeah, yeah.
And do you know what happens when you have your trigger?
What happens?
You're the one that has to manage it, and it's your
not everybody
issue.
else. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah. So we started talking about triggers.
We did start talking about triggers. What else did we were talking about this morning? I was talking about guests. Having guests. That's got nothing to do with triggers, though. But
I can't remember the conversation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was talking about someone specifically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But anyway, we were talking about having guests on here, and I talked about another podcast, how he always has guests, and how that changes things. So I'm thinking how that changes things. Because we've had one guest or two guests. Bianca. Yeah, we had Bianca. And it changed everything. But it was good.
Yeah.
But it changes everything.
Yeah.
So yeah. Nothing to do with triggers, though. Didn't trigger me at all. It was really good. Are triggers always bad? It's really a memory, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the very nature of them are that they are concerning, yes.
Okay.
And for you, and they might affect you, and then if they affect you in adverse ways and you're triggered and not aware of it, then often triggers can be around not only words but senses, sights and smells, etc. And if you've had a difficult experience, or you've had one from a particular person, and say you looked at me in a particular way, with scary eyes, and
I just looked at Janine with scary eyes.
That's not quite a trigger, because if you were being scary, then that would be my reality. That's not so much a trigger.
Okay.
But a trigger might be if you wore a three-piece suit and I had someone who was aggressive to me in a three-piece suit.
Yeah.
That sight or that memory scared me. Or you wore a particular cologne or perfume that reminded me of something that was of a person that was not a good thing. Then again, my body might be heightened and I might have that fight, fear, freeze response.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to explain this, because triggers happen for us all the time. It's just noticing your body and what's actually happening, and then working out what you need to do with it, and remembering, in particular, for those people who've had traumatic experiences, that are you safe now?
Yeah.
And it's okay, and it's just a reminder, and your body's safe now, and in that way, then weirdly, the trigger can be healing.
Yeah. So when I'm discussing things with people, more than one person, I was last night, I have some input into the discussion. It maybe doesn't get rejected, but it doesn't get accepted. Then I have this inclination that I want to stop everything that's going on and say, hey, I said this and this is what I think. And so I get a little bit irritated and I feel a little bit insulted, whatever that is. And I was thinking about it last night as I was driving home, and went, if I let it go on, it gets to that. I just want to be able to control what everybody else does so that whatever I do is great.
So might your trigger be that they didn't respond to you, that you were great?
Yes. Or the trigger could be that I'm, that going back further, that I'm always invisible.
Ah, yeah.
That's what it really is.
Yeah, that's the painful one, isn't it?
That's a horrible one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes there'll be a bit of that, because sometimes people talk over you or don't hear you or don't want to hear you because they've got their own agenda, and that's them, not you.
Yeah.
But the invisible bit is me. It's my trigger, like you said.
Yeah. Now as you're talking about it, I can think about people who've, when I've been standing and talking to a group of people and someone ends up almost interrupting but standing in front of me, and so I'm blocked off from the group.
Yeah.
And I'm triggered by that, but I'm not sure so much of it's triggered so much as it's an experience where the person's been rude. They might not be aware of it and might, once that's brought to their awareness, oh, sorry, Janine, then that could happen, and then therefore it's taken care of. But it's when they don't care, they're more important, then that's quite painful. I don't think I'd call that one a trigger. I'd call that one a feeling that's appropriate to what's actually been happening. I've been dismissed or cut off or not responded to in a respectful way.
Those are communications, both verbal and otherwise.
Yeah.
But there's the other stuff that you were talking about. Like, I've got a really keen sense of smell, so I'll be walking down the road and how to say this. And, someone will step in front of me, maybe close by, maybe not, and I go, that's a lovely perfume, which is not a trigger at all. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
And then somebody else will step in front of me later on, and I go, oh, that just smells like chemicals. And it sort of takes me back, not in any particularly bad way, but it takes me back to a childhood house. And there would always be sort of, cheap cologne smells. My mum and my dad. Yeah. So cheap perfume, cheap cologne, and yeah.
It does transport you back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not always. I did it the other day, and I was thinking, that smells really bad. Why are you wearing it? And I suddenly had the thought, maybe that only smells bad to me. Yeah, somebody else might have a different experience of that. Yeah, but there wasn't anybody else that I could ask. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Triggers are funny. I get triggered by, not so much now, but I used to. So I was working in the city in Rialto in Collins Street. So those of you who don't know, Rialto is in Collins Street in central Melbourne, and it's a big deal. That's where all the money's made, I guess, and all that sort of stuff. And Rialto's a huge building, and I was working for a company we all know to do with telephones and internet and, Telstra.
You enjoyed saying that,
I did,
didn't you?
Yeah, because I'm not really going to say anything else about them. And I'd finish work in the summer, spring and summer, I'd finish work and walk down to the station to get the train. And I'd walk past all of these people, and they're sitting outside of bars and bistros, and they've got a glass of white wine here and a glass of white wine there and a beer here, and the beer didn't really bother me, but not long stopped drinking. So at the end of my relapse, I keeping it. It was a trigger. So I was looking at it going, oh, you bloody idiot, why are you going to walk off and leave that bit of wine? What are you doing just drinking one? Why do you have a bottle there? It didn't affect them or any beer, but it affected me. And I would often have to talk to a friend on the phone, not a friend on the train. Phones are really good in that respect. They're really good. Oh, I'll phone my friend and talk about that, and he'd listen and go, yeah, you're okay now though. I'm going to a meeting tonight. Yeah.
That's that connectivity that we need.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, especially when you're triggered.
Yeah, so I couldn't talk to the person I was sitting next to on the train. Oh, but that's also really annoying. Oh, yeah. Where was I yesterday? I was somewhere yesterday. I was in a queue, and there's like a couple of people in front of me, and for some reason it's going very slowly. This woman stands behind me, and this happens a lot to me, must happen to other people. Gets a phone out, phones someone, and I know all about her life. She's talking like this. I'm only a few inches away from her, and she goes, yeah, well, I'm not going to pay for that. I go, oh my God. Never mind, she'll be off the phone in a moment. She wasn't. She was on the phone, and when she put the phone down, she phoned somebody else.
Well, I think if someone's having that louder conversation, well, would we call that rude? We way.
Well, yeah, but also it's a trigger. Like, well, is it trigger? Irritating, maybe angry making.
Well, maybe there's some other parts of that are a trigger for you. But there is something about that feels disrespectful to the space, doesn't it?
Yeah. I do it too.
Yeah, but what?
Well, I did it on the train, I just told you. I don't know how, I probably wasn't very loud. We just do it. I'll just phone. It doesn't matter that there's 3 million people there.
Yeah, but on the train feels different to in the supermarket, don't you think?
Yeah.
You know, if you're in a retail store and you're coming up and there's the person who's serving you, and I just feel like it's disrespectful to the person you're serving you. They're on the phone having a chat. Oh, Joe, you know, what are we going to wear tonight? And what are you bringing to dinner? And I feel like saying, I'm not bringing anything, so I don't need to be in this conversation. So hang up and have it later.
So is this a trigger or are we having a whinge? Or is it both?
Again, I guess it's all about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe all of it's okay, Kevin. I think the measure of it is really listening to yourself. I love the story that you talked about walking past and the people, well-to-do people were drinking their wine.
Yeah. God, that was a trigger. I don't even notice now. Yeah, I wouldn't notice. Yeah.
Well, I would say it's healing because you listened to yourself, you noticed it, and then you connected with someone you rang and talked to them, and so you were able to soothe yourself in that way.
Yeah, they would listen.
Yep.
They had more experience than me, and they would be able to say, no, it's okay, and it happens, and it won't keep happening. Just keep doing what you're doing.
You know, you reminded me of those places in town where the fancy shops.
Yeah.
In the past, I will have walked in them, be so out of my comfort zone, so uncomfortable. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't deserve to be here.
Oh, really?
You know, I'm small and insignificant in this big retail store with all this fancy stuff, and I don't deserve any of this fancy stuff. And I would freak out and walk out quickly. And now I go, nah, this doesn't fit with me.
Yeah.
And so it's quite a wonderful shift. And those stores will never be a great fit for me, and that's okay. And that feels good, but it feels like I've changed the narrative.
Yeah. That's what we do. Yeah, we change the narrative.
Yeah. I don't know what that's got to do with triggers, but it just feels like a good story.
Isn't it?
Well, it is, because there was a whole inward something that happened for me.
My mum used to drag me from shop to shop, holding hand, probably my sister as well, drag along. We're going into the butcher's, we've done that, we're going in the supermarket. They weren't really supermarkets then, they were, like rather big sort of grocery stores. We're going in there, I've done that, so we're going in the next shop, and it's just exhausting, and it was horrible. And, and then we're catching the bus back with all the stuff that we just bought. And so I used to hate it. I hated shopping, hated any kind of shopping. Groceries, clothes, blah, 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 whatever. So whenever I was going shopping, I'd have a list. And I would work out that this part of the list is this shop, this part of the list is this. And I knew exactly where I was going, and I knew exactly where to get what I wanted. And I'd be in and out of there so fast. And now, I don't know how that changed. I guess being aware that that's how it affected me, and it had an effect on my body.
Yeah.
My body was going, ooh, I don't like this. This feels like I'm being dragged around, except I'm on my own.
Yeah.
And gradually, it changed. And I remember the point when it really changed. There's a big store in London called Harrods. Everybody's heard of Harrods.
Okay. Yep.
I didn't live too far away from it at some point. And I'd never been there. You could buy some interesting stuff there, but why would you go there? And then one day somebody told me that you could buy anything you wanted at Harrods. Even if they didn't have it, they'd get it for you. I said, yes, so what? I'd heard that before. And he said, no, really, if you wanted to buy an elephant, you could get it at Harrods. And I went, what? And they were serious. So I started going to Harrods.
And you wanted an elephant?
No, I didn't want an elephant. It was just like, I could go to the shop, And I might just buy, some food. They had a delicatessen, and they would do the egg roll,
Oh, yeah.
and I really loved that, so I'd buy some. Then I'd just wander around the rest of the shop. And so I took that with me, that going shopping now, I still make a list if I'm going to the supermarket, but I'll also wander around, just look. And particularly, like the plaza.
Yeah.
Go into the supermarket, get what I want, and then go, I might just go and have a look at some shops. And I won't buy a thing. Spend another half an hour just looking in shop windows or going into the shops. So it's changed.
Yeah, I'm listening to that. It's changed dramatically, hasn't it?
So
Still same experience.
It is.
But different body experience and different...
And I'm relaxed.
And inward
I'm enjoying
experience.
it. And I get some, I don't know, maybe some inspiration from what I'm seeing and doing. It's like, oh, look, that shop has this. These people are doing this.
I like that too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like it. What else triggers? Music's always a trigger.
With memories?
Yeah, I guess it's memories though, not triggers.
Yeah, well, it is triggers because what it is triggering our memory. And when I think about it that way, it could be good or bad, couldn't it, really?
Yeah.
Because it could be romantic experiences or times when you felt very loved by not only romantically but by family or friends or those, or if it's a different type of music or a cultural music, it's being reminded of your particular culture and that may give your body something, an experience of longing or fondness. It might even give you some grief if you're not part of that culture anymore.
Could make you angry.
Could make you angry.
Definitely listening to the British national anthem.
That's not the first place I go, but yes. Okay. Sounds like it might be one of the first experiences you have. What were you saying about the anthem?
National anthem.
Yeah.
The British national anthem.
Okay.
There was there's such a thing about the royal family, I don't know if there still is, where I grew up, not just in the little area, but in the town, which was very conservative and quite well off in the few towns dotted along. They were always complaining about the royal family. You'd hear it everywhere. Oh, the royal family. Oh, they're spending their money. Oh, taxpayers' money. Oh. And then there's some big event to do with the royal family. And they all turn out in millions or listen to their radio or sit in front of the television and have little parties about it. And what the hell's going on? Yeah, so when I hear stuff about... I liked my dad who could just go, the royal family, and he wouldn't have anything to do with them, but then he wasn't English, so yeah.
You also reminded me that I went to see, and you're going to have to help me out with this wonderful singer who sings My Island Home. Her name escapes me.
Do you want me to look it up on my phone?
Actually, yes.
I will. I know the song you're talking about.
Yeah. So, an Indigenous singer. Let's just take a break for a moment. You reminded me of a time when I went and saw a client of mine, a brilliant, I don't know, a trumpetist? What's someone who plays a trumpet?
Trumpeter.
Trumpeter?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. Well, they are now.
I don't. She is brilliant. Anyway, so I went and saw her in an orchestra, and Christine Arnoux was singing.
Okay.
And did a couple of songs, and oh my goodness, Christine has this most beautiful, radiant energy that just filled the room. And when she sang, it was incredible. And most people know her for My Island Home.
Yeah.
But she sings so many songs, and she's a brilliant performer. And she sang quite a few songs, and the orchestra played some brilliant music from the Memphis Snowy River, which is one of my favourites. And so I was in my element listening to this. And towards the end, what they did is they did a tribute to the English, because it was something about the prom or the something, I can't think what it was.
Yeah.
And they gave out all English flags. And I was there with my daughters, and we had these flags and we just put them down next to the chairs. I didn't know what to do. And I'm just thinking, this is so insulting.
You're supposed to wave them. That's what they all do in England.
I know, but
Chuck it away.
Christine Anu was there, and I'm just thinking, this is our Indigenous person.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, how insulting and rude. And my daughters and I looked at each other and went, what do we do here? We're watching these people flag, and we just put them down, and we just went, can't be part of this.
Yeah.
More so just out of respect for Christine as well. She was so reverent and so beautiful. I met her after, and you know when you meet someone.
Yeah.
And I was in so awe, and I just looked at her lovingly, lost for words, and yeah, you're amazing. Yeah, I love you. Oh, no, I'm not supposed to say that. Oh, I love you. Something like that. Something like that. I made a fool of myself quite willingly.
Yeah, my friend told me that I was going to meet the Stones, and he said, whatever you do, don't tell them how big a fan you are. I said, why not? He said, because I hear that all the time. They don't want to hear that. Just be you. As it turned out, I never got a chance because they were just talking, and then somebody whipped them away.
So you didn't meet them?
I did meet them. I met Mick Jagger and I met Charlie Watts.
Okay.
Which was great.
Okay.
It was really good.
Fabulous.
It's an experience that stays with me.
Yeah.
It was really funny. We were all sitting there. It was before a show party, really. It was before a show dinner or nibbles. And we're all sitting there, and there's round tables like this, and maybe four of them, and 3 or 4 people at each table, and that was it. We don't know each other, and none of the Stones are here. And anyway, we got on with it eventually. We started talking to each other, and this very familiar voice just suddenly rang out. Yeah, he sets everything up. I'm sure he set this up too. And he just said, hello, has anyone seen Susie? And we all looked up, and there's Mick Jagger standing at the side of the table, and he sat down and introduced himself, which was kind of silly. Oh, I'm Mick. And started talking, and then Charlie Watts walked out, and he obviously had some friends there, and he went and talked to him. It was incredible. Yeah.
I think about that star thing, right? And I've got a philosophy, but I'll tell you that in a moment, around what I think about being famous.
Yeah.
And I think you've heard me say that before. But anyway.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Anyway, I have this idea that why would we make a fuss of these people that are so-called famous because of their skills? They're just like everybody else, and many of us don't have the opportunity to show all our skills, right? Yep. And some people have skills that are quietly over here in the corner and don't show the world that.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the tennis, and then all of a sudden Roger Federer came out, and he was practicing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I moved heaven and earth to get the best shots, and I would not stop taking pictures of this bloke, every movie, and I get him doing this and shooting this. You know, I haven't looked at those pictures at all, but I made sure I got every shot, and it was just ridiculous, and I just went, what on earth am I doing? What am I doing?
See, is it ridiculous? That's what I do. Sometimes watching bands or other events that I'm not really interested in, but sometimes, taking pictures of people that I really admire. So I take 50, 60, 100, whatever, and I'm only going to use 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. But it was just, okay. So I was so surprised at myself. I was so against what I thought I believed. But my theory is, or my philosophy is,
we're all famous.
We're famous within the circles that we move.
Yeah.
And so that means that if I've got my family round or friends and they look at me with fondness or care, then that absolutely feels like fame and is fame, because it's around wanting recognition for who I am and what I've done and what I do and all those lovely things. And I think that's true of all of us. So it can be.
So, is this a trigger then? I can think of two childhood friends who are still around. Not quite the same. I mean, they worked together in the music industry for a long time. They're both still in the music industry. One of them is really, really well known, and the other one is definitely famous and is extremely well known.
Mm-hmm.
And often, when I look at something that he's written or hear from him or something like that, I have two reactions. Sometimes I go, that's nice. Nice to hear from him, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's good, and I'll just reply with this, or I don't need to say anything. And other times, I look at it and go, I think nasty things. Might know what I'm talking about. So I think envious thoughts. And it leads me just momentarily to beating myself up. Yeah. And I do what I said earlier. I beat myself up for a moment ago. I could have been doing that. I could have done this and this and this and this, but I didn't. I took drugs and I did other things. So my journey was different. And then I have to do something to stop that and recenter myself. And come back to me.
Oh, that's definitely a trigger.
That's a trigger, isn't it?
And you've just reminded me of the
time. I think I'm not the only one that does that.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that I have been guilty of looking on Facebook and then seeing a group of friends that I've known in Sydney and seeing them having a wonderful time, and there's part of me that goes, good on them, fantastic, go you.
Yeah.
And then there's another part of me going, did you ask me? Did you tell me about it? Was I included?
What a bunch of scumbags.
You scumbags.
Yeah.
And then I unfriend them.
Yeah.
No, look, I think it's okay if that's going to be your response, in terms of it's not good or healthy for me to see all these pictures all the time. And do I love them dearly? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's okay for me to go, no, it's not a healthy looking after myself if I go and have that kind of response all the time.
Yep.
And then I feed that response. If I start thinking I'm no good or I'm always excluded, and no, that's not good.
That's a good point. Yeah. Somebody else told me a long time ago, it's Facebook. It's not real.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing around, it's just a picture and we can delude ourselves of what's going on. And
you don't know. Everybody's journey is different.
And that's why it's okay and important to go, well, if I have this experience looking at those pictures, it's okay for me to choose something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not unfriending. These can still be your friends and you connect
You just
with
don't
them
want to
differently.
see all of that stuff every day.
Sure. Yeah. Let's take a break. And,
taking a break now.
Taking a break now.
Yeah. We're back.
And you were saying?
Triggers. Triggers.
You were talking about...
Triggers are okay.
Yeah.
If you're aware of them. Becoming aware of them.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah. And if you're aware of them, then there's always the possibility, not probability, but the possibility that you can create a new pathway, change the behaviour. So the trigger will keep coming, but it'll have less and less impact and just sort of automatically go off, somewhere else because you've healed. Yeah.
It's interesting talking about it because triggers in themselves are not an issue. And it's so funny. I've been to my own counselling. I've done many workshops for myself and on myself and for my own healing. And I can still be triggered with things, of course. And the most important thing is just that I'm listening to myself, noticing it, and then I either choose to take myself out of the situation or notice it and find some way of bringing myself back down to being grounded, or telling myself it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's when it can change. That's when it can be healing, and that's when you can recover yourself.
Yeah. And that's really good. Yeah.
There's no issue with having triggers. We all have them. It's more about what you do with them.
I imagine some people don't do anything. Maybe we all have triggers that we don't know about.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'd hate to think that I'm not aware, but how do I know if I've got these spots that I don't notice?
Yeah.
You know, those black spots that you don't
Blind
notice.
spots.
Blind spots. I said black.
Well,
I meant blind. But that's when I count on you, Kevin. Because that's when you can say, Janine, did you notice that one? Good, that reaction.
Yeah.
That's when, for me, that's when good friendships will say, that wasn't nice, or what happened then, or are you okay? Good friends, good friendships, good family relationships can develop those parts of themselves where they go, was that good? Or do you need to do something? Do you want a hug? Like all of that stuff, just noticing those triggers.
Yeah. I mentioned this at the beginning. I changed some wording on something that I and a group of other people are doing. I changed it because we were starting off with third person.
Yeah.
So I changed it to first person using our.
Yeah.
Instead of giving out a name. And somebody else changed it back, and somebody else suggested that we could do both, and the rest of the group just totally ignored it. And look at that's a trigger. What? Why do I bother?
Oh, there's a bit of yell.
Yes. I didn't bother. Stop all of that rubbish talking. Do this. But that's not the way it works when you've got a group of people working on something.
One of the things I know, and I've certainly worked with, is that whenever you've got a group of people, then you're facing your family of origin. You've heard me say that before.
Yeah, I have. Not for a long time, but I have.
Yeah. And so what I understand that is that if there's that uncle that is abrasive or is reserved or doesn't say anything, or that person over there who's womanly or isn't nurturing the way you would want them to be or they should be, or the man over there that isn't that way either, or something that's happened in your past and that person looks a particular way that reminds you of that brother or sister or cousin or whatever, and that's a good thing or a bad thing, then again your body can be triggered. Or they respond in a way that is, like you said, dismissive, or it feels dismissive. They might not be dismissive.
No,
they might be
not
just
be.
quiet.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But you might feel it as I'm abandoned, or they've rejected me. And so that then becomes a trigger. But what I love about being in groups and group work is that then it's in those moments as we're reflecting and thinking about what's happening for ourselves, then we can soothe ourselves in the presence of that other person who reminds us of whoever. And then that's when we can change our narrative and we can change our thinking and soothe our body, and then we can begin to heal or do more healing.
I've gone off back to the group and trying to work out who's my mum and who's my dad and who's my brothers and who's my sister, who's an uncle, who's an aunt. And, yeah.
It's so amazing. If you could ask those questions whilst you're in a group, it's fascinating. You might find that, yep, there's that person and that's that way that they answer it. And, yep, they use that tone.
Yeah, so it's not always... It's rarely how they look. It's how they are, how they respond, how they look at you.
How they sit down in the seat.
Yes.
Gosh, they just look like so-and-so, and how dare they? And
yes, that's right. Gone. Triggered. Automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And which is interesting because if you're not aware of it, then that can inform your experience of that person and how you will relate to that person based on a history or a memory that may be inaccurate.
Yeah.
So again, the awareness of it is really important. So then you can really help yourself to choose in the moment, how am I going to be?
Sucked in.
What?
So folks, don't get sucked in. Yeah. So, yeah.
Easy to do.
Easy.
Well, we all do it. It's just about, again, just noticing it. And let's hope being kind to ourselves as we soothe ourselves to make some choices that are good.
Compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah, compassion
Yeah.
for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are we done?
I think it's kind of a nice way to end, don't you think?
Yeah. We're ending.
Every time we start it, you're like, oh, I'm out of here. Gone. See you later.
I was out of here. We're gone, finished. But Janine's just,
Can you just hover a
yeah,
minute?
I got a hover now.
Not that I'm triggered, but can you just do it slowly? Can you just do it the way I
Sure. We're out of here. No?
No.
Not that kind of
No.
slow? Okay.
No.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, it's been nice doing this.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Again?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And now we're out of here.
Thanks for listening. I've noted that there's some faithful followers and I really appreciate you listening to our podcast and supporting us. I hope you're getting as much out of this as Kevin and I are.
You reminded me that there's one faithful follower since the first in North America.
Oh.
I don't know who it is.
Yeah, go you.
Yeah. But they're there like within a couple of hours of each time we publish it.
If you enjoy this podcast, tell your friends and share it around as widely as you feel led, and we'll catch you next time.
And come and have a chat to us on Inward Journey Pod on Instagram.
There we go.
Yeah. Thanks.
Take care.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.